talk called A Brief History of Gay, which I did about 5 o'clock this morning. So, so welcome all that turned up. Right. So, this is LGBT History Month, as you know, and this LGBT History Month is basically an opportunity for to learn about more about histories of the lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender communities and people. Also gives us a chance to acknowledge, respect and remember the contributions of the LGBT people throughout history and what they've contributed to society and the world thus far. So, what is gay? The term gay in English is first appeared in the 12th century from the old French word gay. So, most likely derived ultimately from the Germanic source. For most of its life in the word English, the word is primarily used as joyful, carefree, and bright and showy. The word is very commonly used with the meaning in speech and literature, as we can see here. This is taken from an 1857 illustration and uses the word gay as a colloquial emphasis for being a prostitute. One woman says to the other, "How long have you been gay?" And the poster on the wall, just to throw out, is La Traviata, which is an opera about Fortyism in the background. An example of this oscillates in the 1890s is still often referred to as the Gay 90s. The title of the 1938 French ballet, The Parisien, Refacing Gaiety, which became in 1941 by the Warner Bros. Movie, The Gay Parisian, also illustrates this connotation. It was apparently not until the 20th century the word began to be used in the specific meaning of homosexual, although it has earlier acquired sexual connotations. It also began to acquire certain connotations of immorality in the 1600s. The word has started to acquire associations of immoral... I didn't mean to press that one. The word has started to acquire associations of immorality by 1637 and was used in the late 17th century with the meaning addicted to pleasures and dispensations. This was the extension from the primary meaning of carefree, implying uninhibited by moral constraints. A gay woman was a prostitute, a gay man a womanizer, and a gay house a brothel or a canapasi court. The use of gay means to mean homosexual was in origin merely an extension of the word's sexualized connotation of carefree and uninhibited. I can't use. Yeah, that's what uninhibited. Which implied a willingness to describe controversial sexual mores. Such usage is documented as early as the 1920s, and there is evidence for it before the 20th century, although it was initially more commonly used to imply heterosexuality on unconstrained lifestyles, as in the once common phrase gay Loethro, or in the title of the book The Gay Falcon, which concerns womanizing detectives whose first name is actually gay. A passage from Gertrude Stein's Mr. and Miss Skene in 1922 is possible the first traceable publication for the use of homosexual relationships, according to Linda Wagner-Martin, and that the portrait featured the sly repetition of the word gay used with sexual intent for one of the times in linguistic history. And Edwin Wilson agreed. For example, they were gay. They learned the things that were all gay. They were quite regularly gay. Quote Gertrude Stein. By the mid-20th century, gay was well established in reference to hedonistic and uninhibited lifestyles, and it's a term in straight, which had long had connotations of seriousness, respectability, and conventionality, had now acquired specific connotations of heterosexuality. In the case of gay, other connotations of frivoliousness and shamelessness in dress, gay apparel, led to association with camp and femininity. This association no doubt helped the graduation narrowing the scope of the term towards the current dominant meaning, which was the first confirmed to subcultures. Gay was the preferred term since terms such as queer were about to be derogatory, and homosexual is perceived to be excessively clinical. Since the sexual orientation now commonly referred to as homosexuality was at the time a mental illness diagnosed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM. So, gays in history, ancient Greece, year 1. The earliest documentations concerning same-sex relationships come from ancient Greece. Such relationships did not replace marriage between man and woman, but occurred before or beside it. A mature man would not usually have immature mates, with exceptions of Alexander the Great, the same age Hephaestion. But the older man would usually be the Eristes, the lover, to a younger Eronomus, the loved one. Male couples kissing, as we can see here, come from side of a plate which comes from 480 BC. So the idea how that both partners would be inspired by love, symbolised by Eros. The Estrates unselfishly provided education, guidance, and appropriate gifts to his Eromenos, who became his devoted pupil and assistant, while the sexual, theatrical remained short of penetrative acts, and supposedly would consist primarily of the act of frottage or intercurrent sex. Although this was the ideal, realistically speaking, it's probable that very much relationships also had fellatio and penetrative intercourse did occur. The hopeful result was a mature improvement of both males in the relationship, each doing his best to excel in order to be worthy of the other. If one was open about one's homosexuality in the Greek things, then they were exiled or even in some cases executed. So it was fine to actually practice it, you just weren't allowed to be open about it. It was guided as one's duty rather than a sexuality. In some ancient texts as well, it suggests that later on in the Greek empires, more emotional bonds were formed between two males, and later on at times it was taken to believe that semen, more specifically sperm, was the source of all knowledge. And that these relationships served to pass wisdom from one Eristes to one Eronomus within society through the act of fellatio. The ancient Greece and Lydia and later Roman Republic, the goddess Cybele was worshipped by the cult who castrated themselves and thereafter taught feminine dress and referred to themselves as female. So even early signs of transsexuality. Ancient China and Japan. Homosexuality has been acknowledged in China since ancient times. The scholar Pan Guodan came to the conclusion that nearly every single emperor in the Han Dynasty had one or more male sexual partners. There is also descriptions of lesbians in some historical books, and believed homosexuality was popular in the Song, Ming and Qin dynasties. Chinese homosexuals did not experience high-profile persecution as compared to that which was seen by homosexuals in Europe during the Middle Ages. Same-sex love was celebrated in Chinese art, many examples of which you're still seen. It's like giggling little kid.
How did that all draw the lines?
Some have survived the Cultural Revolution of the 1900s, and that through the large statues still known to exist. Many handwritten scrolls and paintings on silk can be found in private collections. Here we see one from the Ming Dynasty itself, dictating three males on being serviced. In Japan, several Heian diaries which contain reference to homosexual acts also exist. Some of them also contain references to emperors involved in homosexual relationships and to handsome boys retained for their sexual purposes by emperors. In other literary works can be found references to what Luke called the problems of gender identity, such as the stories of youth falling in love with a girl who was actually a cross-dressing male. Japanese shunra and erotic pictures, which include same-sex and opposite-sex love. The South Pacific. In many societies in Melanesia, especially in Papua New Guinea, same-sex relationships were, until the middle of the last century, an integral part of their culture. The Atoro and the Malayan, for example, even viewed heterosexuality as a sinful and celebrated homosexuality instead. In many traditional layman societies, the pre-pubertal boy would be paired with an older adolescent who would become his mentor and would inseminate him orally, anally, or topically, depending on the tribe, over a number of years in order to give the young girl to also reach puberty. Many Malaysian societies, however, have become hostile towards the story of same-sex relationships since the introduction of Christianity in the European minorities. So going through time, right now up to the 19th century. We start pre-19th century, obviously by a well-known guy, Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was an Italian Renaissance painter, sculptor, architect, scientist, mathematician. His genius, perhaps more than any other figure, is recognised throughout history alone for the amount of things he donated and contributed towards him. He's well known to have many of a gay lover, and also some of his works include the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper, which are by all time the most reproduced and most recognised pieces of work. One of his most standout things is The Virtue Man, is regarded as a cultural icon, and also, which depicts the male anatomy, and also together with his notebooks and contains drawing-specific diagrams, his thoughts on nature paintings and post controversies only rivaled by that of his contemporary Michelangelo. Leonardo da Vinci. Someone wants to have a read of that one. Later on, 1561 to 1622, Sir Francis Bacon. Sir Francis Bacon was a philosopher and also a government thing. A government, yeah, you know what I mean. But he was also a lecturer and would quite often be seen the young boy and prefer the male and that company. Moving on to the early 19th century, Godfrey Harding, 1877. Mathematician. Godfrey was out homosexual at his time. He was also the foremost mathematician for England during the part of the 20th century. He accredited for bringing rigour into the mathematicians, which was previously a characteristic of the French, Swiss and German mathematics. British mathematicians had remained largely in the tradition of applied maths, in thrall to a reputation of Isaac Newton. Hardy was one of in tune with cause-analyse methods of dominance in France and aggressively promoted his conception of pure mathematics, in particular against hydrodynamics, which was an important part of Cambridge mathematics. Louise Pierce, 1885. Pathologist. Louise was an American physician and pathologist. She was one of the most foremost women scientists of the early 20th century. Her research as a pathologist, where Hampton led Brown led to a cure for trypanosis, which is African sleeping sickness, in 1919. She later then went on to discover more treatments for syphilis and others throughout the ages. Alan Hart, a radiologist. Sexual orientation was heterosexual, and he was a trans male in the 1890s. He was born, he was a tuberculosis researcher, writer and novelist. Was born female, Alberta Lucia Hart, and became one of the first female to male transsexuals to undergo hysterectomy and gonadectomy. Is that right? In the United States in 1918, lived the rest of his life as a man. He pioneered the use of X-rays in tuberculosis detection and helped implement TV screening programs to save thousands of lives. Alan Turing, mathematician and computer programmer, and also very much the entrepreneur and very flamboyant. Alan Turing, throughout his college years and much of his life, actually wore a tie instead of a about to indicate that he was different from society. His parents tried controlling this and hoped that it was, through his college years would actually just be a thing that died off, but obviously it wasn't. He's well known, obviously, for the Enigma code and hacking all that. And he was also quite a sportsman as well, nearly qualified for the 1948 British Olympic track and field team. Also went to school in a town named Sherborne, which is 2 miles outside of Louisville, where I'm from. Richard Montague, a mathematician and philosopher, born 1930. He went to the University of California, where he left with a PhD in philosophy in 1957. He had an MA in mathematics in 1953 and a BA in philosophy in 1950. Fortunately, he was found in his flat murdered quite violently. They've never found the killer or even who done it to this day. Montague wrote on the foundations of logic and set theory and would benefit a student of Tarski. He then went on and pioneered a logical approach to natural language schematics and to become known as Montague grammar, which is now widely used in English literature. Lynn Conway, born in 1938, still alive. She's a computer scientist. Sexual orientation was heterosexual, and she's a trans female. She was also the pioneer that actually built the IBM chips, which IBM and Intel built their entire companies on. She's the foremost front pioneer in 1964, graduated from the University of Columbia. She worked at IBM in the 1960s and credited again with the generic infrastructure, which was later formed with all the IBM chips. Transport, yeah.
Hey, sorry.
James Pollock, born 1938. James Pollock was an astrophysicist, quite well known in his time. World permanent authority on planetary atmospheres. He worked on pioneer missions. His understanding and appreciation of the solar system was almost unrivaled. He specialised mainly in the atmospherics of Mars and Venus, and his models are highly still relied on for the basis of planetary research in the Mars rover programs, which are currently happening. Simon LeVay, in 1943. Is basically a neurologist and is openly gay. Simon is renowned for his studies about the brain structures and sexual orientation, and actually published a difference of the hypothalamic structure between heterosexual and homosexual men in science, and actually proved that there is a difference. Homosexual men have the same hypothalamic size in their brain as do females. So it links kind of there with girls in our heads. Robert Anderson, scientist in economics, he was openly gay. Robert Anderson, born in 1951, he's a professor of economics and mathematics at the University of California. He's also the director of the Colwyn Fund Risk Management Research Center and the chair of the University of California Academic State. He also works to basically further LGBT issues and has works to attain greater equality for same-sex couples in academia. Sally Ride, 1951. Orientation was lesbian and she was a physicist. She worked at NASA much of her life. She died in 2012, quite recently. Of actually prostate cancer. Not the... Everyone sees a picture and thinks... she's the elder child of Dale Riddell Ride and Carol Joyce. She was born in Enrico, California, and lived in the district of the city of Los Angeles. She attained her degree in 1978 and joined NASA the same year. Tim Gill, born 1953, as a computer software engineer and entrepreneur. In 1981, he took a £2,000 loan from his parents and went into business for himself. Later on, he then developed Quark Inc. Quark is still now widely used with most CAD/CAM systems and computer-aided systems and engineering systems throughout the world. He became a multi-millionaire. He announced in 2000 that he had sold 50% of his interest in Quark and sits back and is enjoying the retired life. Thank you.
How about we put some of these up on that timeline?
There's also two here as well, Jay Keating and Dr. Don Riley, both are alive, but I cannot find their date of births as well. But both chemical engineer and bioengineer, and one a professor of engineering.